So today I want to talk a little bit more about the Utah housing market, how it ended in the fourth quarter of 2024, but also how we're shaping up in January of 2025. I see a lot of information and comments being made on social media, and I've actually been asked quite a few times at the gym in the past about week and a half, 2 weeks about the housing market. And I always say the same thing for people looking at buying. So stay tuned, and I'm going to give you a little bit of that insight. But let's jump into looking at the numbers because I always say the numbers don't lie. We all have our own take on what could happen and this and that. But I like to get down to it by showing you the actual hard numbers and not giving you my opinion of what I think is going to happen and try to tell you you should buy now and not wait and all of that. So let's take a look. Okay, so this first graph that I want to show you is just going to kind of show how our last quarter ended in 2024. But I also think this is a really good visual representation of the up and down market because I see people all the time or hear them say, what goes up must come down. The market crash is coming. Prices can't sustain this. It's not going to go up anymore. And this graph is a perfect example to really visually see the fluctuations. So what we have here is, I went back to the first quarter of 2022, and we can see the peak of median sales price at 532,000. 1 year later, when interest rates started going up and affordability became more and more of a problem, you can see that our median sold price actually dropped to $470,000. So you're talking a $60,000 drop in the market. And despite the interest rates, you can see there on the blue line how it has gone from the bottom up a little bit, it dropped again a little bit, and then now we're going back up. So this is just, like I said, it just shows a really good visual representation, but it makes it really hard to read. Okay, so I pulled it up in this different format, and I actually went back to 2021 on this bar graph. Just really quick, I want to just show you this green bar here is the total number of homes listed. You can see in the fourth quarter of 2024 here at the bottom that we had 10,000, just over 10,000 homes listed. That's more like the fourth quarter of 2021 than it is of the year 22 or 23. You can see here in the fourth quarter of 2021, we had a little bit more in homes listed at 10,762 homes. So about 550 more homes were listed in that quarter. But you can see here in the fourth quarter, we were down to 9,000. Sorry, fourth quarter of 22, we were down to 9,000 listed. Fourth quarter of 2023, 9,400. And then that number is going up for fourth quarter of 2024. Okay, so now I just wanted to go back to just the 2022 to 2024 data because it just makes it a little bit easier to see. The other thing I want to point out is our homes sold in the fourth quarter of 2024, which is this dark blue line, was like 9,400, just over 9,400. And we saw those numbers back in the first quarter of 2022. Now, in 2022, we did sell, a couple hundred houses more, but take a look at the fourth quarter, but since we are trying to compare the fourth quarter to the fourth quarter. Even in the peak of the market that I talked about in 2022, the fourth quarter of 2022, we actually had only 7,700 houses sold compared to 9,400 this year. And then looking at the fourth quarter of 2023, when things were slower, and we saw that, we were down to just over 7,900, just under 8,000 homes. So our number of homes sold is going up to kind of where those 2022 levels were. And finally, and I'm not going to talk about this long on this graph because you saw it on the line graph, but our median sales price, which is this blue line in fourth quarter of 2024, did go up from 2023. So in 2023, the median sold price was 483,000. Fourth quarter of 24 was 505. Now we're still not as high as we are, like the spring and summer markets, as you can see in 2024. We were up slightly from where we are in the fourth quarter, but still it is showing that upward trend. Okay, and finally, I want to jump into looking at January of 2025. Now, understand we're only a few days into February, so these numbers are not finalized, but they're pretty close. There's still things being reported, and again, it's pretty close. So it kind of gives you an idea. Now, what I was saying with quarter to quarter was that the fourth quarter of 2024, we were kind of trending up. But if you look down here at the bottom, January 2025, the number of homes sold was 2,070 compared to in 2024, we were just under 2,300. So we did have a bit of a slowdown in January compared to 24, but it was definitely in line with January of 2023, kind of that slower time. Now, the interesting thing is just like we saw with the fourth quarter, things were starting to head up with sold price. And we're seeing the same thing with our median sold price in January of 2025. Coming in at $498,000 compared to in January of 24, it was $485,000. So our median sales price year over year is still up $13,000 for the 1 year mark. And our price per square foot, it hasn't fluctuated a lot. We were at $230 a square foot in 2025 compared to $4 less in January of 2024, coming in at $226 per square foot. And then you'll see here our days on market, our median days on market was up in January of 2025 compared to in 2024, but less than what it was in January of 2023. So I wanted to leave this up here so you can kind of see it, because I know it's a lot of data on here and the graph actually looks a lot worse. I'll pull that up. But it's just, there's so much information that it's kind of hard to see, but very similar to what we talked about in the other graph. And I'll leave this up here for just a minute so you can kind of take a minute to digest it. When people are asking me about the market, first off, never buy a house thinking I have to do it because I'm missing out and people say I should. You need to buy a house when you are financially able and secure to do so. Do not rush into it. It's a huge decision. And the last thing I want to see is somebody get into financial trouble and lose their house 1 or 2 years later because they jumped in before they were truly ready. So I do want to preface with that. If you are in a financial position to buy a house, we are seeing the numbers starting to go up. And this is what I say. Everybody is waiting for interest rates to go down. If you talk to anybody in the housing market, somebody that's thinking about buying or anything else, they're all, I'm waiting for the rates to drop. Think about what's going to happen when interest rates go down. Even if we're talking high 5% interest rates, all that pent up buyer demand and all those people that you keep hearing about that are waiting for interest rates to go down before they buy, they are going going to flood the market and get that pent up buyer demand out into the housing market, just like we saw in 2022. So what does that mean? You're going to be more likely to get into the bidding wars like we saw in 2022. And I'll tell you, I worked with mostly buyers and it was rough in 2022. I don't care what anybody says. So my point here is I don't want to see 2022 all over again. Like I said, my buyers, I worked with a lot of them. It was horrible for them. And seeing the competitiveness and what people were willing to do to get into a house, I don't want to see that again, but it could become a reality because of all the people that will be coming into the market. So with that said, if you have the ability to buy, you may want to consider doing that now because we are seeing the home appreciation prices and sold prices continuing to go up. And it's just going to continue with spring and summer markets. That's how it historically works. Winter, the prices drop, the inventory drops usually, all of that. And then come, about March is when we start to see the upward trend in prices and stuff. If you're looking at making a real estate move, I'd love to connect with you. You can shoot me a text or send me an email. Either way is a great way to get in contact with me. And we can talk about what your goals are and if it's even feasible, whether you're buying or selling. So I hope to connect with you soon. And as always, make it a great day.